Good evening and welcome again. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Sandra Lomax. I'm the Executive Director of Development at the College of Fine Arts, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here this evening to the 2016 Doty Award Dinner. Now, the purpose of our annual Doty Award Dinner is twofold. It's to honor our special guest, our very special friends with the Doty Award. It's also to celebrate with our donors, alumni, advisory council members, faculty, and friends. Now, there's one particular group here tonight that I would like to recognize, and that's our College of Fine Arts Advisory Council, who have come here from all across the state. Would you please stand and be recognized? Your support and advocacy for our college as our volunteer board is invaluable to us. We can't do what we do without your help and support. Thank you so much. Now, the E. William Doty Award is the highest honor that the College of Fine Arts bestows. Tonight's recipient, Alan Becker, joins the roster of distinguished individuals who have exhibited extraordinary dedication and loyalty to our College of Fine Arts. Now, the Doty Award tradition began back in 1995, and our first recipient was the author James A. Michener. For 15 years, the Doty Award was given out at our spring commencement. It was in addition to the graduation ceremony. But then, in 2012, we decided that the Doty Award presentation should be an event unto itself. And so we started this tradition of having a dinner, which would be more fun, more socializing, and more time to spend with our honored guests and our friends and their families. So, in 2014, we decided that we were going to expand the Doty Awards to include alumnus awards. And so we began the tradition of distinguished alumnus. Our college is blessed with so many amazingly talented students. And our students leave and they go out and accomplish great things. So tonight, our alumnus recipient will be Kevin Adams. So to get the program started, it's my pleasure to introduce our host for tonight. Most of you know the dean of our college, and you know that he is a philosopher by training and profession. You might not know that he also has teaching and research specialties across the visual and performing arts. Doug Dempster earned his PhD in philosophy at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and prior to his appointment at UT, he was Associate Director and Academic Dean of the Eastman School of Music, one of the top music conservatories in the world. While at the Eastman School, he also held a joint position in philosophy at the University of Rochester. Now, he arrived at UT in 2001 to take the post as the Senior Associate Dean of the college and as a professor in the Department of Theater and Dance. Only a few years later, in 2007, he was appointed Dean of our college. Now, Doug was born and raised on the East Coast, right outside of New York City, but as they say, he got to Texas as soon as he could. He's been in Austin now for almost 15 years, and he considers himself a naturalized Texan. He has learned to love barbecue, Tex-Mex, cowboy boots, and of course, as a long-distance runner, the wonderful sunny Texas weather. Now, the summer heat, we're still having a little trouble with that. But ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to introduce the Dean of the College of Fine Arts, Doug Dempster.
Good evening. This is a great crowd tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I got here as fast as I could. Naturalized, I say born-again Texan. And you know, they're always the ones who proselytize the most. So tonight is all about recognizing two very important and distinguished alumni of the University of Texas, Kevin Adams and Alan Becker. But you also get the point, right, that like good parents anywhere, the university takes enormous satisfaction and a fair amount of credit for the success of our alumni. So this is also about celebrating what the College of Fine Arts and the University of Texas have accomplished through our graduates. What starts here changes the world, and we hope to celebrate the university this evening. So Sandra told you the College of Fine Arts some 20 years ago established the Doty Awards to recognize the most admirable accomplishments of our graduates, our faculty, and friends and patrons. The honor was named after the now legendary first and founding dean of the College of Fine Arts, E. William Doty, who was also, by the way, a philosopher. So there the resemblance stops. This is a very interesting man. He established the College of Fine Arts as its first dean in 1936, I believe. I call it out of the formless void because at that time there was no fine arts in the curriculum of the University of Texas because a former governor had struck it out of the budget, deciding that, well, who really needed the fine arts in a university? And it was Dean Doty, with the support and political patronage of powerful people who reestablished the College of Fine Arts, and then served as chair of the then Department of Music and professor of music theory and organ professor and dean of the college for some 34 years. That's a truly Peyton Manning-esque kind of record.
A sports illusion.
I know that was in there just for Brant Pope, who just cannot believe I pulled that one out. I got some help from friends, and I know other things about basketball than Peyton Manning. So he's a baseball fan. Don't let him fool you. So Dean Doty's legacy lives on every day in this college. It's amazing to me that his presence is so vivid. And only yesterday, I was sitting with Sandy New, who's with us tonight, an alumna of the School of Music and a new member of our advisory council. And we were catching up on her educational experience here. And she said, well, yes, I took a class from Dean Doty in form and analysis. That's music theory, and which is an area I've done some teaching in. But I don't do that as dean. And I thought, wow, that's when deans were really deans. They were deans. They taught. They ran music schools. They did absolutely everything. An amazing man who built a great art school in a great public university, and we're all indebted to him. We're also joined tonight by Dean Doty's daughter, Martha Doty Freeman, and her husband, Joe. They're absolutely required to be here. They're in my speech every year, so if you don't show up, I just have to ad-lib, Martha. Thank you for being here, Martha and Joe. We have past Doty honorees, including, Sandra mentioned that James Mitchell is not here, Tom Jones, Harvey Schmidt, Joe and Terry Long, Sarah and Ernest Butler. But we have a couple of former, well, they are still Doty Award winners, but formerly awarded Charles Ruckel, whom I call the triple threat of the University of Texas, a graduate of the university. Charles, you just have to give a wave. A graduate... a professor of music history, former dean of the College of Fine Arts, former deputy to the president of the University of Texas, at least two presidents, I think, Charles. That's a quadruple threat. And also a Doty Award winner. And we're always honored to have Charles and his wife, Ermelinda, join us for these events. And also, Barbara Talker's here. She, along with her dearly beloved and now very much missed husband, Bob Talker, were last year's Doty Award winners. She has, and her husband, Bob, have the longest history with the college. I can't possibly recount it. But I want to really thank Barbara. Where are you, Barbara? I know you're... There you are. Okay. Of course, I'm going to take advantage of you to plug the catalog, the collections catalog. The biggest book in Texas has just been created by the College of Fine Arts. It's a catalog that surveys all of the special collections at the University of Texas. It just came to us from the press, the printers, over the holiday. It's something you all are going to want, and it's in a limited edition, so you probably want to rush home right after this dinner and get on Amazon.com. And it's called, Andre, what's the correct title? The Collections Catalog of the University of Texas. The Talker Foundation made this real monument to the university's history. It's one of the great collecting universities in the world. It was the Talker Foundation that made that possible, and that was only one of many great gifts. Thank you, brother. So Sandra mentioned that we've been giving the Doty Award for some 20 years, and we realized at that rate the list of deserving winners was growing longer each year. So accomplished our faculty and our graduates and those who support and patronize the College of Fine Arts. So we created two other awards, a Distinguished Alumnus Award, which we're giving to Alan Becker tonight, and also, the Doty Award, which is going to Alan Becker, and the Distinguished Alumnus Award, which is for Kevin Adams. And we also had, which Sandra didn't mention, a Young Alumnus Award for under 40 rising stars. Now, we're not giving one of those awards today because the trouble with rising stars is they're always chasing a star, and it's almost impossible to get on their calendars because they simply can't say no to the next gig. So we're postponing that award till next year, and we hope you'll join us for that occasion. But tonight we have two really remarkable people to recognize. Now, I want to say there's a theme that runs through tonight, and it's kind of serendipity that Kevin Adams and Alan Becker both satisfy this theme so brilliantly. And it's perfect for the College of Fine Arts in a moment in our history which is so formative for the college. The College of Fine Arts, as most of you know, and if you don't, I want you to quote me. We don't measure success solely by the bottom line, by prosperity and financial success. You know that, right? Prosperity is absolutely not a condition for artistic legitimacy or accomplishment. We applaud the starving genius, and we celebrate the obscure talent who may be way ahead of her time. Every day we do. We honor the patient art teachers who in our day of society don't receive half the recognition they deserve for educating our children. We understand that artistic integrity can be lonely and sometimes not a prosperous calling. So all that's the high catechism of the fine arts. However, we want to recognize by the very same token that sacrifice and obscurity and commercial failure aren't any hallmark of artistic success either. It's an independent variable. The College of Fine Arts is rediscovering the commercial arts. We're rediscovering the entertainment industries and starting anew to prepare our students more than ever before to flourish and prosper in that commercial world without sacrificing their professional and artistic integrity. We believe these things can go together, and tonight's awardees are a perfect example of that. As many of you know, we've recently launched new programs in game design, in arts and entertainment technology, and in design studies. We are collaborating on new programs and ventures with colleges all over campus, including the Dell Medical School, computer science, engineering, the business school. We're offering a new minor in arts, business, and management, and we're hoping to establish an expert resource center for students interested in entrepreneurship and commercialization. And just in the last few weeks, we put out a national ad because we're looking for the very best possible advisor and assistant dean position in student professional advancement and development, because we want to make the professional success of our students the measure of our own success as a college. So to quote our new president, Greg Fenves, the College of Fine Arts is the college of what's next, at least in the arts. And what's next is exploring these rich, profitable, and abundant intersections between art and technology and commerce. We want our graduates to be creative and original and noble and dedicated and wise, all those great virtues, but we also want them to prosper and be celebrated and create jobs and opportunities for themselves and others. We want them to be engines of prosperity. We're converting STEM, science, technology, engineering, math, into STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Think of it as the newest form of green energy, STEAM, from the College of Fine Arts. So, I wish that was original to me. It's not. I stole it from someone cleverer than me, but it captures the idea. Our awardees this evening are both really amazing, exemplary individuals of the absolute highest integrity and noblest motives as artists, producers, and presenters. They're also individuals who achieve something like fame and fortune as a result of their artistic vision and the vision for the arts. That's a great combination. They are exactly the sort of artistic success stories that we would hold up to our students as an example of how being able to do it all. Our Distinguished Alumnus Award is going to be presented tonight by Bob Schmidt. Bob's an old friend. He's a professor emeritus of scenic design and the former chair of the Department of Theater and Dance. Bob's design work has been seen all over the United States in regional theater and internationally. Now, I can also tell you that as someone who worked very closely with Bob for many years, that he is an artist of flawless integrity, impeccable integrity. He's a compelling and tireless teacher, and I got to know him best as chair of theater and dance when I was either associate dean or interim dean. I can't remember, Bob. And I can tell you, most remarkable of all, he had a kind of Zen-like demeanor in the eye of the creative hurricane that we sometimes euphemistically call the Department of Theater and Dance. He was unflappable. So it's really great honor for me to introduce Bob Schmidt, Professor Emeritus of Scenic Design, to introduce our distinguished alumnus.
Well, I'll try not to be flapped. Don't worry. I write things down to keep it short. Good evening, friends. It's my very distinct pleasure this evening to introduce you to Mr. Kevin Adams. Many of you may know him as a 4-time Tony Award-winning lighting designer for his work in such groundbreaking Broadway productions as Spring Awakening, The 39 Steps, American Idiot, or Hedwig and the Angry Inch, or any of the dozen or so other productions he's designed for Broadway. Or you may know him from his work off-Broadway for any of the many shows he designed there and for which he received an Obie Award for sustained excellence in lighting in 2002. Or you may know his lighting design from his work in opera, in such places as the Metropolitan Opera, New York City Opera, Houston Grand Opera. Anybody heard of Houston Grand Opera? Chicago Opera Theater, or Glimmerglass Opera. Or you may know his work from one of the many regional theaters where he has been, such as the Guthrie Theater, Steppenwolf Theater, American Repertory Theater, the Huntington Theater, Long Wharf Theater, Seattle Repertory Theater, or La Jolla Playhouse. And I'm not listing them all. Or you may have come across his work with the Blue Man Group in any one of a number of cities presently around the world. He's been a busy fellow. In short, if you've gone to the theater or the opera or almost any kind of performance in the last few decades, it would be hard to have missed seeing his work as a lighting designer. But let me give you a little preamble. Kevin is a theater and visual artist with deep roots in Texas. Born in the Texas Panhandle, he graduated with a BFA from what was then the Department of Drama, now Theater and Dance, with an emphasis in scenic design. It was during that time that I first met Kevin. He was a young and idiosyncratic theater design student, as most of them are, with a truckload of energy and a lot of questions, the kind of student that teachers really love to have. It was because of this that in his senior year I asked him to assist me on a production of The Merchant of Venice that I was designing in Hong Kong, and he came with me for a few weeks to help open the show. I think he enjoyed the experience. He may have enjoyed the food a little. I know he enjoyed the Hong Kong club scene. He then transplanted to California, where he completed his MFA, also in scenic design, at Cal Arts. He worked as a set design assistant at the Mark Taper Forum in LA, where he assisted such notable designers as Doug Stein, Ralph Funicello, Doug Schmidt, no relation, and John Lee Beatty. It was also in LA that he first worked as a film and video production designer and art director, providing art direction for the film adaptation of Sandra Bernhardt's off-Broadway show, Without You I'm Nothing, and also where he, according to an interview he gave with Live Design magazine, quote, worked on a lot of music video shorts and more beer commercials than I care to count, end quote. It was also in LA that his scenic work began to incorporate light and light fixtures, what Kevin calls electric objects, as a fundamental tool for defining and energizing theatrical space, a direction and signature which was to define much of his work to come as a lighting designer. But since it's so much better to see pictures than to listen to me babble on and on, by way of further introduction, we have a short video for you tonight.
Kevin Adams is a Tony Award-winning lighting designer whose steps towards success began during his undergraduate career at the University of Texas at Austin. Born in Pampa, Texas, his family moved around the state before settling in Klein for Kevin's high school years. In 1980, he enrolled in the College of Fine Arts, Department of Theater and Dance, to study set design. Those 4 years introduced Kevin to several nurturing mentors, set designers Bob Schmidt, John Rothgeb, and Michael Sharp, and acting and directing professor Lee Abraham. After graduation, Kevin continued on to the California Institute of the Arts, where he received an MFA in set design for theater and film. From 1986 to 1996, he worked in Hollywood and designed scenery for theater, music videos, commercials, and feature films. Influenced by fine artists who used light in their work, he began lighting his own set designs. Although he had no previous interest or training in lighting, he was soon lighting well-known LA solo artists Rachel Rosenthal and John Fleck. Kevin moved to New York City in 1996 to work in lighting design, and has since designed 20 Broadway shows and received 4 Tony Awards and 6 Tony Award nominations. Productions on Broadway include Spring Awakening, American Idiot, Hedwig and the Angry Inch, Next to Normal, The 39 Steps, Hair, and Passing Strange. His designs have been seen across the country, from the Hollywood Bowl to Las Vegas to the Metropolitan Opera. Several of his Broadway shows have toured across the US and internationally. His work with the Blue Man Group will be seen in Asia, Australia, and Africa as the group tours over the next few years. Kevin recently created the Kevin Adams Endowed Scholarship for Excellence in Theater Design. Thank you, Kevin, for your support of the College of Fine Arts and for the fine example you've set for our students.
Ladies and gentlemen, alumnus and my good friend, Mr. Kevin Adams. You like
unpleasantly dark up here. Now it's the photo op.
Oh, hello. Is that it? Okay.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, gosh. You know, that trip to Hong Kong, Bob, I did enjoy the food and the clubs. And I remember I bought a lot of shoes. And I remember I didn't look like Boy George, but everywhere I went, people were like, Boy George, Boy George. It's so nice to be here in the dark with so many. It's comforting. It's comforting to be in the dark up here. To be with so many new friends and old friends. Just to mention those 4 names you just saw up there. I came here in 1980 as a set design student. John Rothgab was immediately nurturing and supportive of me. Michael Sharp was a New York set designer who was teaching here, who showed me so many great things about New York City. He took me to my first Broadway show, which was the last preview of Dreamgirls, which was amazing. And then in 1982, Bob got here and sort of figured out what to do with me and taught me so many amazing things that I still use every day. And Lee taught a very tough and excellent directing class that I took, and we have been lunch friends ever since, talking about all kinds of amazing things. So those 4 people and many others were the best of what this university could offer a young person, and it's been a great experience. And it was $112 at the time to attend, so that's excellent. Thank you very much. Before Tony Awards, that sort of raises the bar, Kevin. One Oscar's just not going to do it anymore. I want to introduce a brief performance for you. I know they're out there. Oh, there's Rachel. Rachel Lamphere and Byung-hee Yu are going to perform for us. Rachel is a 4th-year vocal performance, radio, television, and film major from Springs, Texas. And Byung-hee holds a Master of Music degree from the Juilliard School and is currently pursuing a DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts, in collaborative piano. And they're going to perform for us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and it's a pleasure to be here. Mr. Becker, these songs are for you. All my doubts, demons,
Thank you, Rachel. Youngie, very pretty. Beautiful. Thank you very much. The founding charter for the Doty Award sets out a few criteria for recipients. First, the recipient of the Doty Award should be, quote, a person of such integrity, demonstrated ability, and stature that faculty, students, and alumni will take pride in and be inspired by their recognition. Second, the recipient should be, quote, an individual who demonstrates pride in the college and university and whose interest and loyalty are evident. And third, the recipient should have provided exemplary service to the college. So you all know that this year's recipient of the E. William Doty Award is Alan Becker. Alan was some time ago a member of the College Advisory Council, but he didn't like meetings and wasn't there very long. He's not a graduate of the College of Fine Arts, but he graduated from the business program. But you'll wonder, what's his connection? Okay, so 30 years ago, the University of Texas decided it was going to get into the entertainment business and didn't really know it because Frank Irwin, whom some of you will remember, decided that it was a really great idea to build a big auditorium right there across from the stadium. In fact, his plan was to build an auditorium and a stage house so big that the Metropolitan Opera, which still toured at that time, would be lured to Austin to perform in that hall, which they never did. I think they stopped touring right about the time they opened Bass Hall. And Bass Hall wasn't open very long, Performing Arts Center, before it went into bankruptcy. We had no idea what we were doing. We learned that the arts presenting business is not for amateurs. Alan and others stepped up to help save the Performing Arts Center, save it from ourselves, but also from bankruptcy, and has been helping us ever since. As you'll learn from my remarks and from the tribute video that we're going to show you in a minute. But while I've got your attention and you're waiting for this very good video that his children helped put together, I'm going to take advantage of your attention and talk at you a little bit more about Alan because he's someone I admire enormously. Alan embodies everything expected of a Doty Award recipient, and I'm going to explain to you why. First of all, any of you who know Alan Becker, and if you don't, you should or will by the end of the night, know that he's an enormously successful impresario. That's an old-fashioned word for arts presenter and producer. I'd wager that every single person in this room has been to a, quote, Broadway show in Austin or Houston or Dallas or San Antonio or Fort Worth. Now that's a couple of, almost 2,000 miles from Broadway, so technically it's not what you would call a Broadway show. Well, if you've been to one of those shows and enjoyed it, you need to thank Alan Becker, because it was Alan Becker who figured out how to take those hits from Broadway and package them and market them and bring them out into middle America, all over this country. Now, how did he get there? Alan tells stories, and he's a great storyteller, about being a student at the University of Texas, where he met his wife, Shirley, and how they would head over to East Austin. That was then Black Austin, to hear some of the jazz greats of the day. Why? Because they couldn't play in the clubs and venues in Central Austin. They had to play in parts of town where they were welcome. But he and Shirley were adventuresome enough to go see these great artists. And I like to think, though I don't know him that well, but that was the beginning of a discovery of a lifelong appetite for putting appreciative audiences together with great artists. So fast forward a couple of dozen years, a great many risky ventures, several acquisitions and mergers and takeovers that I can't keep track of, so he's told me several times how it works. It's simple, Dean. It just goes like this. You buy them, they buy you, you buy them back, and everybody turns out okay. He reinvented commercial theater in every town in America. And that's it. That's all it takes. You start here, you go to a few shows in East Austin, and you just decide to remake commercial theater in America. So truly, what started here on the 40 acres, and this is the part where we take credit for all your success, Alan, reshaped the look and feel and business of theater and entertainment in the American heartland. That's no small thing. So we're honoring Alan Becker for his vision and his professional accomplishments. That's for sure. We're honoring him for that. But that's not at all why I admire this guy. That doesn't have anything to do with it. If you go deeper, Alan's business savvy was, and I don't know him nearly as well as many people in this room. A lot of his family and friends are here, and you may be able to prove me wrong, but this is the man, your father, grandfather, that I know. He has a business savvy that was driven by a love of the arts and entertainment. You don't have to know Alan Becker very long before you realize where his passions are. If you get a chance, and his great friend, who's sitting right here, said this way better than all my words could say. Louis, yes? He just tapped me on my heart and he says, "You got to have this." But I've used a few more words here. Alan has this. You don't have to know Alan very long before you can ask him sometime, go ahead, try it, really anytime, about what's hot on Broadway or in Las Vegas or out on the road, and just watch his eyes light up. And I've known him for several years now, and it never fails. It's a great way to start a conversation with him. And this is what he says. He gets that glint in his eye, okay, and he looks at me and says, "Dean, did you see the Book of Mormon? Have you seen Hamilton?" In that quiet, gravelly voice. And then he always asks, right? The next thing he asks is, "Did you like it? What did you think?" Never, "I'll tell you what's great." He wants to know what you like. What gets you excited? That's what he cares about. He loves to see an audience on its feet, completely lost in the performance. And he wants to be part of bringing that to people all over the country. So now I'm going to tell you a story. And it's about heart. Just a year ago, Alan and his family, that really a family business, I learned that as well, is that this is all about family. Ace Theatrical Group reopened the King's Theater in Flatbush, Brooklyn. My daughter was living in Bushwick, Brooklyn at the time, which I called the navel of the hipster universe. You couldn't even get into Bushwick unless you had black skinny jeans on and a knit cap. So I brought her along, and we got special treatment by the Becker family and Ace Theatrical Group. The King's Theater is something extraordinary. It is an absolutely enormous movie palace built during the golden age of the movies, just 1 year before the Great Depression hit. The theater is truly hard to describe or to imagine. It makes, just to give you some idea, it makes Austin's Paramount Theater or the Majestic in San Antonio look a little modest and drab. It's that ornate and fantastic. The grandest opera houses in Europe have nothing on the King's Theater. But with the rise of multiplex movie houses and the decline of Flatbush, the King's was closed in 1977, and it sat empty and dark and no doubt full of pigeons for some 34 or 35 years, until the city of New York reached out to Ace Theatrical, the Becker family, and said, "Help us revive this theater and this community." Now, who would have the courage to take that on? I mean, absolutely impetuous. Alan was good enough to invite me and my daughter to the grand reopening of the King's Theater last winter, barely a year ago, on a bitter cold night. And I remember the line literally went around the block. And I'll never forget, because I was hopping on foot to foot for an hour waiting to get in. The line was just absolutely packed, mostly with locals, with the thickest Brooklyn accents you can imagine. Many people reminiscing about weekend matinees in the King's Theater. Diana Ross was the headliner, which was an absolutely stroke of genius for opening this theater. The theater was absolutely stunning when you got inside. I mean, a vision. Miraculously restored and brought back to life. People were gaping when they walked into this theater. Some of them remembered it as children or heard about it from their parents. It was packed to the rafters. Every age, every race you can imagine. People were on their feet the entire show. Mostly what I saw was not Diana Ross, but iPads. People videoing the whole show. 6 wardrobe changes, as I remember. Maybe it was 7. I lost track. Several encores. Audience members jumping up on stage to dance with Diana Ross. An absolutely amazing show. Something I'll never forget. And right smack in the middle of all that was Alan Becker. He was beaming. I was behind him, so I don't know exactly what he was beaming at. But of course, Diana Ross was terrific, but he knew that. He knew that was going to happen. What he didn't know was that this whole community was just going to come back to life inside this theater. And that's what I think was so exciting for Alan Becker. That's the heart in this man. So that's why I admire Alan Becker for all his accomplishments. But that's not why I respect him. And I do respect him. On a more personal note, I respect Alan Becker because for all his wheeling and dealing and his tough-minded business sense, combined with his love of the arts and his heart for entertainment, for all his successes, Alan Becker is a modest man whose professional life, or so it seems to me, so far as I know him, his professional life has been guided by a deep sense of moral integrity and a commitment to social justice. And I really mean that. It sounds grand, but that's the man I've come to know. He's a decent businessman because he's just a decent man. He seems truly to believe in the power of the arts to make us better, more generous, and more considerate people. He always seems to have his eye on the greater good he might accomplish for his family, of course, for his friends, of course, but also for the community around him and for this university. He seems to me to have succeeded in business not in spite of a strong conscience, but exactly because of that conscience. He did well in the arts and business because he was doing good. That's an inspiring lesson to share with our students. You can and must maintain your integrity, your artistic integrity, and you can prosper as a result. In short, Alan Becker is a man, quote, of such integrity, demonstrated ability, and stature that we take pride in and are inspired by his recognition. What Alan Becker started here has made the world a better place, and that's why we respect, admire, and honor Alan Becker with the Doty Award. Now please roll the video that you've all been patiently waiting for.
I don't think that I had much of an influence on the university as the university had on me. I know that this was a great part of my life, and it's always been a part of my life ever since. It taught me how to get along with people. It taught me that integrity and honesty was important. It was just a feeling I had when I was in school and after I graduated from school, that this was the right way to do it. It was the university's way and Texas's way.
I don't know many people who aren't, once they come to UT, that brand and that part of their life stays with them forever, and he's very, very proud of it. And I think he's proud, too, that an institution that used to only be known for football now is ranked in performing arts.
Alan Becker is the very best example of UT's motto, what starts here changes the world. He went out into the world and he looked for opportunities in the arts and culture, business opportunities that other people overlooked. And he went into communities and he created theaters and performance opportunities to revive the cultural life of those communities. And he did it while creating very successful businesses, and he bears a large responsibility for bringing the life of live entertainment back to communities all over America.
Alan Becker's dream began in Texas, on one of the world's largest stages, the Houston Astrodome. From the fast-paced world of motorsports to the promotion of some of the biggest rock concerts America's ever seen, Alan Becker discovered a new way to bring live entertainment to the masses.
As you know, we were in the promoting of live entertainment, whether it be Broadway shows or the rock and roll, and we wanted Austin to be included. What we came up with was a program for theater. PAC was just built. They had everything, but they didn't have a Broadway experience for campus, for the students, faculty, or the city of Austin, really.
Alan's been advising the College of Fine Arts and the University of Texas on the business and operation and programming of the Performing Arts Center almost from the day it opened back in the 80s. Performing Arts Center is not just a performance venue for touring artists or student performances, but it's really the kind of research arm of the College of Fine Arts. We develop new work that's never been seen or produced before in that space. We bring outside artists in. It's one of the biggest university-based arts presenters in the United States, by budget, by season, by seats sold. So it's a not just an academic venue and operation, it's a professional presenting operation right here on campus.
And what happens is the profits from that allow us to continue to invest in the departments and the academic mission and the student engagement mission, not only of the college or the university, but also of Texas Performing Arts. It helps fund things that make the arts more accessible for students, like $10 tickets. We also have a big job training program. We employ about 90 students. And, you know, Broadway and the kinds of attractions that Alan really sort of got started in the nation at a regional level are the things that help to fund that.
The systems that we developed worked, and it worked for the University of Texas. But I think the real thing is I have such a feeling for the business and for these kids, and to see them mix is just so gratifying.
I know that Alan became very, very involved in the quest to build a performance endowment that helps support especially the development of new work. The only way the arts are furthered, whether it's Broadway or classical music or anything else like that, is to let new work prosper.
I created the Shirley Becker Endowment. Shirley Becker was my wife. She was always very much involved in the helping kids that needed help, financial help, to get over, but had a certain talent that needed to be developed. It's something Shirley would be very proud of.
Most tangibly, Alan and his wife Shirley have been generous benefactors to the University of Texas and especially the College of Fine Arts. They've created two very generous endowments that support new work, cutting edge work that Texas Performing Arts presents and produces every year. And they've created a scholarship fund and other funds to support the development of new work in our Department of Theater and Dance. So they're very committed to education, very committed to the University of Texas, and they have given back in very tangible ways.
I have no talent. I don't sing or dance or direct or any of those things. You go to a show like Jersey Boys. Everybody in the audience is singing along with the show, know all the same songs. And you sit there and you think, all these people will leave this theater having one of the best times they've ever had. And they will always remember where they saw it and when they saw it. And in a way, I sort of provided that. I sort of provided that opportunity for them to do that. And to me, that's the biggest thrill in the world.
Alan, congratulations. to make some remarks, but I'm going to interrupt you before you do. Another thing I've learned about Alan Becker is that he's all about family. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to ask Brian and Sonny and Gary to come up and stand with you while you make your remarks. Will you do that?
Gary, Brian, where's Gary? Where's Gary? Where's Gary? Just text me. No, I'm going to do it. Thank you. Gary Markowitz, where are you?
1 o'clock.
Can you join us, please? He's an outlaw. I mean, he's an in-law. And there's some cousins around that have worked for us over the years. Susan McCauley, Lisa, whoever else. Would you stand for a moment? Thank you very much. Hook 'em horns. It's amazing what that means. It is a common bond for so many people, a bond for me for over 66 years. My friends, my family, my businesses have always included my commitment to the University of Texas. My love, respect, continued support for the institution has never wavered and will continue for the rest of my life. I am proud of my family who have made this business a possibility for me to enjoy. They have pulled their weight, and I would like to tell you we never had an argument, but that's not true. If you can work with your siblings and your family, it's a pleasure. This guy here was early on, and he's like a son. It's been an exciting time for me. I'm honored, humbled, and thankful for this award. Thank you. I'd like to say I did it for you or the university, but I did it for me. I really have enjoyed my life. May God bless the school and all who are part of it. God bless, guys.
Kevin, congratulations and thank you for coming. It's great to have you home. Alan, you mean a lot to us. Thank you. Thank you. I started by saying that we were going to take credit for all you've accomplished, and thank you for letting us share in your accomplishments. It means a lot to the university. And just keep doing great things. Much appreciated. I want to, you know how we end these things. Now, you're not all graduates of the University of Texas, but you're just going to have to indulge the rest of us because we're going to end the evening singing The Eyes of Texas. And I'm going to invite Rachel back up. Can you lead us, Rachel? Because they don't want me to lead this. all.